Chapter 1, The Wake. Julian Cross awoke to silence, not the kind that comes with peace, but the kind that feels like the world has forgotten how to breathe. The sky above him shimmered with silver threads, stitched like veins across a canvas of deep violet. Beneath him, the ground pulsed faintly, as if it had a heartbeat of its own. He sat up slowly, his body aching in places he couldn't name. His clothes were damp, his hands stained with something that looked like charcoal dust. Around him, the landscape stretched in surreal waves, trees with glass leaves, rivers that flowed upward, and distant mountains that blinked like eyes. "I don't remember," he whispered, touching his temple. A storm. A crash. A name. It hovered just out of reach, like a word on the tip of his tongue. He wandered, drawn by instinct more than reason, until he stumbled into a clearing. There, seated on a flat stone, was a man sketching with charcoal on the ground. His strokes were deliberate, his posture relaxed but alert. He didn't look up. "You're not from here," the man said, voice low and even. Julian blinked. "I don't know where I'm from." The man paused, then resumed sketching. "But you're looking for someone." Julian nodded. "I think so. I don't know who." The man finally looked up. His eyes were a stormy gray, sharp and unreadable. "Then maybe we're both lost." Julian sat beside him, watching the sketch take shape, a castle, distant and jagged, perched on a cliff that seemed to float above nothing. "What is that?" "The Castle of Echoes," the man replied. "It's where the answers are. Or so they say." Julian studied him. "What's your name?" "Theo Vale." Julian hesitated. "I'm Julian." Theo's gaze lingered on him for a moment longer than necessary. "I've been here a long time, Julian. Years, maybe. Time doesn't work the same in Virilia." "Virilia?" Julian echoed. Theo gestured around them. "This place. It's stitched from memory and emotion. You'll see." Julian felt a strange pull toward Theo, familiar, like a melody half remembered. "Why are you helping me?" Theo shrugged. "Because you feel like something I forgot. And I want to remember." They sat in silence, the wind carrying whispers that weren't theirs. Julian stared at the castle in the sketch. It shimmered faintly, as if calling to him. "Let's go," Julian said. Theo raised an eyebrow. "You sure?" "No," Julian admitted. "But I think it's the only way forward." Theo folded the sketch and tucked it into his coat. "Then we walk." And so they did, two strangers bound by something deeper than memory, stepping into a world where emotion shaped reality, and the past waited to be remembered. Chapter 2, The Garden of Laughter. The path to the garden was unlike anything Julian had ever seen. It wasn't paved with stone or soil, but with flickering memories, fragments of laughter, warmth, and light that danced beneath their feet. The air shimmered with a soft hum, like a lullaby sung by the wind itself. Theo walked ahead, his steps confident but cautious. Julian followed, still unsure whether this world was a dream or something far more intimate. They reached a clearing where the sky opened wide, revealing a sun that pulsed with color. Flowers bloomed in impossible shapes, some with petals like feathers, others glowing faintly with emotion. Vines curled around laughter, capturing it like dew. The garden was alive, not with biology, but with feeling. Julian paused, overwhelmed. "It's beautiful." Theo nodded. "This place responds to joy. It blooms when you remember happiness." Julian knelt beside a patch of empty soil. His fingers trembled as he reached for the brush strapped to his belt. He hadn't noticed it before, but it felt familiar, like an extension of his soul. He dipped the brush into a pool of light and began to paint on the ground. A boy laughing in the rain. A moment of pure, unfiltered joy. As the image took shape, the garden responded. Flowers erupted in color, vines danced, and laughter echoed through the air. Theo stepped back, eyes wide. I know that laugh. Julian looked up. You do? Theo's voice was quiet. It's yours. I've heard it before. I think I loved it once. Julian's breath caught. The words felt like a key turning in a lock. You loved me? Theo hesitated. I don't know. I can't remember. But something in me does. They sat together beneath a tree that hummed with warmth. Julian painted again, Theo's smile, soft and genuine. The garden burst into bloom, brighter than before. I used to be afraid of smiling, Theo admitted. It felt like a promise I couldn't keep. Julian turned to him. You don't have to be afraid here. Theo looked at him, eyes searching. Why do I feel safe with you? Julian reached out, brushing a petal from Theo's shoulder. Maybe because we've done this before. They stayed there for hours, sharing stories, fears, and quiet laughter. The garden wrapped around them like a memory rediscovered. Julian felt something shift inside him, a flicker of hope, fragile but real. As night fell, the garden dimmed, but the warmth remained. Theo stood, offering his hand. We should keep moving. The castle's still far. Julian took it. I'm ready. They walked side by side, the garden fading behind them, but its laughter lingering in their hearts. For the first time since waking in Virilia, Julian felt something he hadn't dared to believe in. Hope. Chapter 3, The Sea of Sorrow. The garden faded behind them, its laughter echoing faintly as Julian and Theo stepped into a new landscape, one colder, quieter, and heavy with grief. Before them stretched an ocean unlike any Julian had ever seen. The water shimmered with shades of gray and blue, and its surface rippled with whispers. Lanterns floated across the waves, each glowing softly with a memory trapped inside. Theo stood at the shoreline, his expression unreadable. This is the Sea of Sorrow, he said. It rises with regret. We'll have to cross it. Julian hesitated. What happens if we fall in? Theo turned to him. You drown in what you've lost. A boat waited for them, small, made of woven canvas and wood that pulsed faintly with light. Julian climbed in first, then Theo. As they drifted into the mist, the silence grew louder. The sea began to speak. Julian saw flashes in the water, his own face, twisted in anguish, standing beside a wrecked car. A hand reaching for him. Blood. Rain. Screams. He gripped the edge of the boat. I remember the crash. Theo's voice was quiet. I remember pulling someone out. I think it was you. Julian turned to him. You saved me? Theo nodded slowly. I think I died doing it. The boat rocked violently. A wave surged, and from it emerged a figure, twisted, hollow-eyed, and wailing. A shattered soul. It lunged toward Julian, its hands clawing at his chest. Julian gasped, falling backward. Theo moved fast, grabbing a lantern and hurling it at the creature. The light exploded, sending the shattered screaming back into the sea. Julian lay panting. You keep throwing yourself in front of me. Theo helped him up. Old habits die hard. Even when you don't remember why. They sat in silence as the boat drifted. Julian reached for his brush and painted on the side of the boat, a smile. Theo's smile. As the image took shape, a warm breeze swept across the sea. The waves calmed. The lanterns glowed brighter. Theo stared at the painting. I didn't know I could smile like that. Julian touched the canvas. You did. You do. Theo looked at him, eyes soft. You're bringing me back. Julian met his gaze. Maybe we're bringing each other back. The boat reached the far shore, where the sea gave way to a forest of frozen time. Julian stepped out first, then turned to help Theo. Their hands lingered. "I'm scared," Theo admitted. "Of remembering. Of losing you again." Julian squeezed his hand. "Then let's remember together." Behind them, the sea of sorrow shimmered, no longer a place of drowning, but of healing. They walked forward, side by side, hearts heavier but stronger. Chapter 4, The Forest of Stillness. The forest was silent, so silent that Julian could hear the rhythm of his own heartbeat echoing through the trees. The air was thick, unmoving, and the light barely filtered through the canopy of silver-leafed branches. Time didn't pass here. It paused, suspended like a breath held too long. Theo stepped cautiously between the trees, his boots crunching softly against frost-covered moss. Julian followed, his brush tucked into his belt, fingers twitching with the need to create. But here, even memory felt frozen. "This place," Theo whispered. "It's where time forgets to move." Julian nodded. "It feels like everything's waiting." They wandered deeper until they reached a clearing where a single tree stood, its bark etched with symbols, its roots tangled around a pool of still water. Julian knelt beside it, staring into the reflection. He saw himself, but younger. Happier. And beside him, a man with storm-gray eyes. "Theo." Julian's hand trembled as he reached for his brush. He dipped it into the pool, and with slow, deliberate strokes, painted a memory onto the tree's bark, a kiss in the rain, soft and desperate, two souls clinging to each other as the world blurred around them. The forest responded. The air shifted. Leaves rustled. Light broke through the canopy in golden beams. Time resumed. Theo stared at the image, his eyes wide. "I remember that." Julian turned to him. "You do?" Theo nodded slowly. "It was our last kiss. Before the accident." Julian's breath caught. "We were lovers." Theo stepped closer. "We were more than that. We were everything." Julian reached out, his fingers brushing Theo's cheek. "I think I loved you." Theo leaned in, forehead resting against Julian's. "I think I still do." They embraced, and the forest bloomed around them. Flowers unfurled, vines danced, and the pool shimmered with light. The tree pulsed with warmth, its bark glowing faintly. "I was afraid," Theo whispered. "Afraid to remember. Afraid to lose you again." Julian held him tighter. "You won't lose me. Not again." They sat beneath the tree, wrapped in silence and memory. Julian painted more, moments of laughter, of quiet dinners, of shared dreams. Each stroke brought the forest to life, each memory thawed the stillness. As night fell, the forest glowed with soft light. Theo traced the bark with his fingers. "We're getting closer." Julian looked toward the horizon. The castle of echoes loomed in the distance, its spires reaching into the stars. "Are you ready?" Julian asked. Theo smiled. "Not even a little. But I want to know everything." Hand in hand, they left the forest behind, hearts open, memories blooming. They were no longer just travelers. They were two souls rediscovering the love that had once defied time, and would again. Chapter 5, The Mirror Warden. The castle of echoes loomed like a memory made solid, its spires jagged, its walls shimmering with reflections that didn't match the world around them. As Julian and Theo approached, the air grew colder, heavier. The sky above dimmed, and the ground beneath their feet pulsed with anticipation. "This is it," Theo said quietly. "The place where everything ends, or begins again." Julian nodded, his grip tightening around his brush. "Are you ready?" Theo didn't answer. He simply stepped forward, and the castle doors opened with a groan that sounded like a sigh from the past. Inside, the halls were lined with mirrors, tall, narrow, and endless.